recess. Between the bells, a chance to be free of blackboards, quizzes, teachers, desks, and marbled composition books. From overworking, overschooling, to play, frolic in the sun and fresh air, where your head is clear of studied sediment, learned impediments, where your body is unconfined, uncontrolled, with no permissions necessary to speak or think or laugh out loud. Curious how the word itself also refers to a hidden secret or secluded place or part, like recessed lighting, recessive genes, when the opposite is true, truer to who we naturally are, want to be as children and grown-ups alike. Well, perhaps frequent recesses, to rest in ourselves, to relax from all the clockwork orange-imposed regularity, conformity, and open the doors to more and more daily liberty, joy, and serendipity is in order. Recess, everyone? Welcome to the latest Floating Poetry broadcast, and thank you for leaning in, for taking time or a time out to be here. It's a gift to have you on hand, on ear, for show 181, coming to you live from the free and easy coast of Rhode Island. This is your poet and guiding spirit in the poetosphere, Colin Goedecke, a voice here and elsewhere for living our days more fully, more lively, more poetically. Last week's broadcast, if you weren't listening, was nostalgia, on those feelings we have from the wistful to the bittersweet, to the deeply sentimental, about things and people in life past, including childhood, our youth, some treasured aspects of once upon a time, that something in our present touchstones us back to. As well, the longings, pinings, sometimes desired relivings we do, the invoked or evoked reminiscings that come upon us. This week, it's recess. From the childhood school day literal to the adult work and life metaphorical. That precious break time, playtime, allotted and gladly taken free time, self-time. Yes, breaking loose instead of being pinned to a desk like butterflies pinned in a case. Looking at it here with both a familiar lens and a freshly conscious sensibility, and encouraging us, more largely, to break out of what too often is a mold and a molding of us by others, to conform, to fit in like square pegs, instead of cultivating and enjoying our beautiful, vital individuality. And this is taking nothing away from the best parts of our schooling, our educations, wherever we were well and happily engaged in learning, or recognizing where good and respectful behavior still matters. So, I've crafted a show of cultural commentary, quotes, poetry, and anecdotes around this theme for us to explore and muse on. Let's begin in grade school. Judith Harris, gathering leaves in grade school. They were smooth ovals, and some the shade of potatoes. Some had been moth-eaten or spotted. The maples were starched and crackled like campfire. We put them under tracing paper and rubbed our crayons over them, X-raying the spread of their bones and black-veined catacombs. We colored them green and brown and orange and cut them out along the edges, labeling them deciduous or evergreen. All day, in the stuffy air of the classroom, with its cockeyed globe and nautical maps of ocean floors, I watched those leaves lost in their own worlds flap on the pins of the bulletin boards, without branches or roots, or even a sky to hold on to. Thank you, Judith Harris. Gary Soto, S-O-T-O, teaching English from an old composition book. My chalk is no longer than a chip of fingernail, chip by which I must explain this Monday night the verbs, quote, to get, quote, to wear, quote, to cut. I'm not given much, these tired students, knuckle-wrapped from work as roofers, sour from scrubbing toilets and pedestal sinks. I'm given this room with 5 windows, a coffee machine, a piano with busted strings, the music of how we feel as the sun falls, exhausted from keeping up. I stand at the blackboard. The chalk is worn to a hangnail, nearly gone, the dust of some educational bone. By and by, I'm Cantiflas, the comic busybody in front. I say, I get the coffee. I pick up a coffee cup and sip. I click my heels and say, I wear my shoes. I bring an invisible fork to my mouth and say, I eat the chicken. Suddenly the class is alive, each one putting on hats and shoes, drinking sodas and beers, cutting flowers and steaks, a pantomime of sumptuous living. At break, I pass out cookies. Augustine, the Guatemalan, asks in Spanish, Teacher, what is tally-ho? I look at the word in the composition book. I raise my face to the bare bulb for a blind answer. I stutter, then say, Es como adelante. Augustine smiles, then nudges a friend. In the next desk, now smarter by one word. And after the cookies are eaten, we move ahead to prepositions under, over, and between. Useful words when La Migra opens the doors of their idling vans. At 10 to 9, I'm tired of acting, and they're tired of their roles. When class ends, I clasp my hands of chalk dust, and 2 students applaud, thinking it's a new verb. I tell them adelante, and they pick up their old books. They smile and in return cry, tally-ho, as they head for the door. Thank you, Gary Soto. Here's Margaret Hasse, H-A-S-S-E, truant. Our high school principal wagged his finger over 2 manila folders lying on his desk, labeled with our names. My boyfriend and me called to his office for skipping school. The day before, we ditched Latin and world history to chase shadows of clouds on a motorcycle. We roared down rolling asphalt roads through the Missouri River bottoms beyond town, our heads emptied of review tests and future plans. We stopped on a dirt lane to hear a meadowlark's liquid song, smell heartbreak blossom of wild plum. Beyond leaning fence posts and barbed wire, a tractor drew straight lines across the field, unfurling its cape of blackbirds. Now, 40 years after that geography lesson in spring, I remember the principal's words, how right he was in saying, this will be part of your permanent record. Good one, Margaret Hasse. Thank you. Truant. I must read more of her. She's new to me for this show. Marilyn Nelson, Moon Lily. When we play horses at recess, my name is Moon Lily, and I'm a yearling mare. We gallop circles around the playground, whinnying, neighing, and shaking our manes. We scrape the ground with scuffed saddle oxfords, thunder around the little kids on swings and sea-haws and around the boys' ball games. We're sorrel, chestnut, buckskin, pinto, gray, a herd in pastel dresses and white socks. We're self-named, untamed, untouched, unridden. Our plains know no fences. We can smell spring. The bell produces metamorphosis. Still hot and flushed, we file back to our desks, one bay in a room of palominos. Wonderful. Thank you, Marilyn Nelson. Love that. From the Writer's Almanac, I was reading a little bit about Emily Dickinson, the poet, who was born in Amherst, Massachusetts in 1830. This is what they said. Well, a section of it. She was a bright, spirited girl who loved to be outside. She had a close-knit group of girl friends, and together they would explore the woods around Amherst, picking flowers, meeting people, helping with the final cooking down of maple syrup in the spring, and going for long walks. This group of friends started a school newspaper, and Emily, considered the class wit, wrote the, quote, comic column. At recess each day, a group gathered around Emily to listen to the funny stories she would invent on the spot. I would have liked to have been a kid and heard what she had to say, her comic stories. Darrell Hammond, play is under attack in our nation's schools, and shrinking recess periods are only part of the problem. Homework is increasing. Cities are building new schools without playgrounds. Safety concerns are prompting bans of tag, soccer, and even running on the schoolyard. I came across that and I did not know many of those things, so I'm rather concerned about them, as you might be. And part of the reason why I thought all the more important to have a show on recess of different kinds, obviously. From the Atlantic magazine, Why Kids Need Recess and Why It's Endangered, by Alia Wong, 2016. Just give you some of this. In Florida, a coalition of parents known as, quote, the Recess Moms has been fighting to pass legislation guaranteeing the state's elementary school students at least 20 minutes of daily free play. It's not very much, is it? When, you might ask, did recess become such a radical proposal? In a survey of school district administrators, roughly a third said their districts had reduced outdoor play in the early 2000s. Likely culprits include concerns about bullying and the No Child Left Behind Act, whose time-consuming requirements resulted in cuts to play. From Rasmussen University, the importance of recess, why schools need more playtime. Your kids run and jump alongside you as you walk them home from the bus stop after another successful day of school. What was your favorite part of the day today, you ask? Both the kids shout, recess! You're hardly surprised at the answer. You remember recess fondly from your own elementary school days, jumping rope, swinging from the monkey bars, playing kickball, and simply enjoying the outdoors was the highlight of your school day too. But many children today aren't given the opportunity to explore the full joys of recess. So we spoke about cutting, which they speak about here. Only 8 states currently require it in the United States. But they go on to say some critical things on the hidden benefits of it. Physical activity may improve brain function. Maria Montessori, pioneer of early childhood education, believed that, quote, the mind cannot be educated without using the body. Recess promotes social skills. Recess fights childhood obesity. It reduces stress. And so they say how to stand up for recess. It doesn't have to go extinct. You can keep the importance of play front and center in your classroom by taking small steps to encourage it in your school or early childhood program. So I would encourage you. If I was a teacher, I'd be encouraging it, or a parent, I would. And one more is just a little slip from a blog called Eye on Early Childhood, The Importance of It, by Alyssa Haywood. Just this one line. Perhaps most important, it allows children to design their own games, to test their abilities, to role play, and to mediate their own conflicts, activities that are key to developing social skills and navigating complicated situations. So, that and more I know. One listener asked, is recess another form of respite? I would say so, certainly in my way of seeing it, and researching all of this and thinking about it. HarperCollins Dictionary, among others, the definition of a respite, a short period of rest from something unpleasant, a short delay before a very unpleasant or difficult situation which may or may not take place, but this one, an interval of temporary relief or rest as from pain, work, duty, etc. Well, I'd say so, just based on that, or could be. I did find some other choice quotes from people I didn't know necessarily, but some of them rather juicy in their way. And I've got one for later, but how about this one? Russell Wilson. In elementary and middle school, I threw kids against the wall. I rubbed their heads in the dirt at recess. I bit them. I even knocked teeth out. Good heavens, imagine dealing with this bully, this kind of bully. What fierce. I had my own experience, as you may have had in grade school, and mine stopped when I stood up for myself. Yeah. But maybe you encountered bullies of some kind, and I'm curious what happened and how you got through that, how you ended it. Well, apropos, a couple poems here. Roxanne Beth Johnson, What I Do. Eat cereal, read the back of the box over and over. Put on my red velvet jumper with white heart-shaped buttons. Walk to the bus, Pick up discarded cigarette butts and pretend to smoke. Get on the bus. Girls yell, "Wire head, ugly black skin." Take a window seat under the radio speaker. Look for cats hunting in the fields. Go to class. Stay in at recess. Steal chewing gum, plastic green monkeys, and cookies from desks. Eat in bathroom stalls. Pure white light pours in. Try to get a bloody nose by punching myself in the same bathroom after lunch. The teacher passes around pictures of herself pregnant. "You were fat," I yell. Everyone laughs. I lap it like licking honey from a spoon. "I was pregnant. What's your excuse?" Everyone laughs. I swallow stones. Grow tired in the afternoons. Droop like a sunflower in the lengthening light. Get on the bus. Girls yell, "Brillo head, zebra." Sit in an aisle seat. "Your father's a nigger." I say, "No, he's a fireman." Laughter all around. Pinch myself shut like squeezing soap from a sponge. Walk home. Sometimes find an unsmoked cigarette in the gravel along the curb, long, white, new. Put it to my lips, pull it away, and hold it aloft, movie star-like, all the way home. Thank you, Roxanne Beth Johnson. That's from her collection, Jubilee. And here's Rita Dove. I've shared other pieces of hers and other programs for other reasons, other themes. Primer. In the 6th grade, I was chased home by the Gatlin kids, 3 skinny sisters in rolled-down bobby socks, hissing "Brainiac" and "Mrs. String Bean." They trod my heel. I knew my body was no big deal, but never thought to retort, "Who's calling who skinny?" Besides, I knew they'd beat me up. I survived their shoves across the schoolyard because my 5'0" mother drove up in her caddy to shake them down to size. Nothing could get me into that car. I took the long way home, swore I'd show them all. I would grow up. Primer, Rita Dove, thank you. That's from her collection, Mother Love. Peggy Trojan, noon hour. Unless hot lunch at school was serving something special like corn chowder and baking powder biscuits, or cream chip beef, potatoes, and brownies, I went home to what my mother made, like most town kids. Jack walked the furthest, almost to the river, to his unpainted house by the railroad tracks. We all knew nobody was there, his mom at the tavern already. He always came back just in time for the bell. Thank you, Peggy Trojan, noon hour. Well, how about some questions about recess for you as we go along here to stir some thoughts, some memories, some musings, some feelings. What are your memories of recess when you were a school kid? What was it like being, quote, let out each school day between classes? Did you, and if so, when did you, and how did you feel about having to conform, having to get permission to do anything, including going to the bathroom? I actually asked any listeners of the show if they ahead of time if they wanted to tell me any anecdotes. And here's one from a fellow listener from Joy in New Jersey. Maybe 1st grade. I was a very slow eater, and recess was after lunch. Lunch was always too much for me, and the principal insisted on everyone finishing lunch before they could go outside for recess. Eventually, I was the only kid left in the lunchroom with him. Finally, he saw that it just wasn't ever going to happen. This went on for several days in a row, and finally, he gave up and let me go without finishing my lunch. Well, thank you, Joy. What kind of school did you go to? And what kind of schoolyard did you have for recess or for your playground? What did it look like? What were your classmates like, your playmates? And who were the really fun or funny ones you loved? And were there any bullies you were afraid of or anxious about? Another listener said the other day about the whole dynamic. As a child, I resented how recess was treated like a reward instead of a necessity. I was also wondering if you were or are a teacher out there, how do or did you look at recess? And if in the past, did you see it differently since then? And what changed? And for those of you working somewhere as adults, at companies, especially in offices, especially at desks, what are your quote, recesses like, your breaks when you're free to play, to be at ease. Yeah, it's a kind of recess, no question. Where would you like to be at more liberty in your day-to-day? Have more places of comfortability, serendipity? Things for you and for us all, I think, to muse on, and certainly share with me some of your musings, if you like, beyond this broadcast. Okay. Ed Madden, playground at Rutherford Elementary. When Mark Nicholson spilled his milk on me, a slosh across my lap, the teacher let me tip the rest on him, then slipped me in some spare jeans in her closet, and that was that. From then on, teacher's pet. Carol Toddy fell out the back of a swing that fall, knocked him out, left a knot on his round head like a horn. On cold days, our teams devolved to backwards tag, the boy with the ball running the field, and all the rest after him. Smear the queer, trying to tag or tackle him. No way to win. Tagged, he'd toss the ball, lob it in the mob of us, or hurl it high, snag it, and you're it. Scramble past, run across the yard. No out of bounds, no teams, no rules, until the bell called us back inside for school. Thank you, Ed Madden. Kenneth Koch, schoolyard in April. Little girls smearing the stolen lipstick of overheard grown-up talk into their conversation, unconscious of the beauty of their movements like milkweed in the wind, are beginning to drift over by the drinking fountain where they will skip rope. They speak in whispers about the omnipotent teachers, while the little boys scoff over their ball mitts. The teachers themselves stare out of windows, remembering April. Lovely. Thank you, Kenneth Koch. Clemence Heard, Heard, the United States of Montessori. We sat Indian style and sang our pledge to Audubon, painted birds on every wall, and heard mirage when our teachers said mural. We stole soccer balls from French Exchange, spiked them on the walkway, and yelled touchdown. My friend, where are you now? We tripped over tree roots racing to the playground, walked the sea of wood chips to the plastic ship's eye and wheel. We bartered super donuts for extra cartons of chocolate milk, played duck, 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 goose. We vamoosed around a sunken circle of laughter. We were hedgehogs, were roadrunners and sombrero mice. We were bullets, the flash, and every green lantern. The black ones, the white ones, the alien ones, too. The United States of Montessori. Thank you, Clemence Heard, for that. Diane Ackerman wrote a very marvelous book called Deep Play on the evolutionary and existential purpose of deep play. So I have some slices of that I thought I want to share with you. If you haven't really thought about it, or at least her perspective on it, on what it is. We long for its heights, which some people often visit and others must learn to find, but everyone experiences as replenishing. Opportunities for deep play abound. In its thrall, we become ideal versions of ourselves. Its many moods and varieties help to define who we are and all we wish to be. Why play at all? Every element of the human saga requires play. We evolve through play. Our culture thrives on play. Courtship includes high theater, rituals, and ceremonies of play. Ideas are playful reverberations of the mind. Language is a playing with words until they can impersonate physical objects and abstract ideas. It's so familiar to us, so deeply ingrained in the matrix of our childhood that we take it for granted. But play is fundamental to evolution. Without it, humans and many other animals would perish. Above all, it requires freedom. One chooses to play. Play's rules may be enforced, but play is not like life's other dramas. It happens outside ordinary life, and it requires freedom. Deep play should really be classified by mood, not activity. It testifies to how something happens, not what happens. Games don't guarantee deep play, but some activities are prone to it. Art, religion, risk-taking, and some sports, especially those that take place in relatively remote, silent, and floaty environments, such as scuba diving, parachuting, hang gliding, mountain climbing. It always involves the sacred and holy, sometimes hidden in the most unlikely or humble places. Amid towering shelves of rock in Nepal, crouched over print in a dimly lit room, slipping on astroturf, wearing a coconut shell mask. We spend our lives in pursuit of moments that will allow these altered states to happen. To children, heaven is being an adult, and to adults, heaven is being children again. When one enters the realm of deep play, the sacred playground, where only the present moment matters, one's history and future vanish. One doesn't remember one's past needs, expectations, worries, real or imaginary sins. The deep play world is fresh, wholly absorbing, and full of its own unique wisdom and demands. Being able to temporarily step outside of normal life while keeping one's senses alert is indeed like being reborn. To erase all memories and yearnings, to be vigorously alive without self-awareness, can provide a brief return to innocence. Wonderful. Deep play. Diane Ackerman. Might interest you to read more of it or all of it. Which led me to a poem of mine from April of 2017, Being at Liberty. Living in a state of superfluidity, the gift, grail, remarkability to be wholly your own man or woman, to choose the flow you desire to go with, to dance footloose freestyle in any direction of desire, to know and feel what it is to be entirely at liberty in your body and spirit on this daily planet. Yes. Frank O'Hara, Ave Maria. Mothers of America, let your kids go to the movies. Get them out of the house so they won't know what you're up to. It's true that fresh air is good for the body, but what about the soul that grows in darkness, embossed by silvery images? And when you grow old, as grow old you must, they won't hate you, they won't criticize you, they won't know. They'll be in some glamorous country they first saw on a Saturday afternoon, or playing hooky. They may even be grateful to you for their first sexual experience, which only cost you $0.25, and didn't upset the peaceful home. They will know where candy bars come from and gratuitous bags of popcorn, as gratuitous as leaving the movie before it's over with a pleasant stranger whose apartment is in the heaven-on-earth building near the Williamsburg Bridge. Oh, mothers, you will have made the little tykes so happy, because if nobody does pick them up in the movies, they won't know the difference. And if somebody does, it'll be sheer gravy, and they'll have been truly entertained either way, instead of hanging around the yard or up in their room hating you prematurely, since you won't have done anything horribly mean yet, except keeping them from the darker joys. It's unforgivable, the latter, so don't blame me if you won't take this advice, and the family breaks up, and your children grow old and blind in front of a TV set, seeing movies you wouldn't let them see when they were young. Thank you, Frank O'Hara. I had never read that one before. Interesting. Provocative. Okay, adult recess. You knew we were going to get more to that. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Adult recess is booming because being a grown-up is hard. This is from 2019. Decades from elementary school, people are reliving schoolyard memories with tetherball, hopscotch, and Lincoln Logs at, quote, adult recess events. Despite sore muscles and tweaked knees, quote, I thought back to the last time when I really had fun. The Art of Manliness, from The Art of Manliness on What is a Dinner Party? Podcast number 378, from Brunch's Hell. What is a Dinner Party? By a manly guest contributor. Doesn't say who that is. But this is an excerpt from that. How to Save the World by Throwing a Dinner Party. And this was the point I wanted to hit on. It's number one, purpose. The purpose of throwing a dinner party is to have dinner and to party. A dinner party must have no agenda other than this. Our lives are already planned enough. The dinner party is a space for spontaneity. It is, as we will remind you several more times throughout the course of this tome, Recess for Adults. When you were a kid, did you actually plan to get beaten up at recess? No, it just kind of happened. Dinner parties are like that, except instead of randomly getting beaten up, random fun occurs. I like that. I hope you like that. And another one of theirs, podcast 928, for a better workout, think like a kid. Which sounds like recess to me. Brett and Kate McKay, 2023. According to some estimates, only 5% of people in the West get the recommended amount of daily physical activity. Only 5%. Is the solution getting a fitness tracker, developing more discipline, or buying a piece of cardio equipment for your basement? My guest would say none of the above and would have you think about kids playing at recess instead. Daryl Edwards is the founder of the Primal Play Method. Today on the show, we discuss the epidemic of sedentariness, which besets both adults and children, and why technology and willpower isn't the cure for it. Daryl then explains why a better solution to getting more movement and physical activity in our lives is rediscovering the intrinsically motivating pleasure of play. And obviously, very simple play in its way. Okay. On we go. Mary Carr, K-A-R-R, Revelations in the Key of K. I came awake in kindergarten under the letter K chalked neat on a field green placard leaned on the blackboard's top edge. They'd caged me in a metal desk, the dull word writ to show K's sound, but K meant kick and kill. When a boy I'd kissed drew me as a whiskered troll in art. On my sheet the puffy clouds I made to keep rain in, let torrents dagger loose. Screw those who color in the lines, my mom had preached, words I shared that landed me on a short chair facing the corner's empty sheetrock page. Craning up, I found my K high above. You'll have to grow to hear, its silence said. And in the surrounding alphabet, my whole life hid. Names of my beloveds, sacred vows I'd break. With my pencil stub applied to wall, I moved around the loops and vectors Z to A, learning how to mean, how in the mean world to be. But while I worked, the room around me began to smudge. The room around me began to smudge, like a charcoal sketch my mom was rubbing with her thumb. Then the instant went, the month, and every season smeared, till, with a wrenching arm tug, I was here, grown, but still bent to set down words before the black eraser swipes our moment into cloud, dispersing all to zip. And when I blunder in the valley of the shadow of blank about to break in half, my being leans against my spinal K, which props me up broomstick straight, a strong bone in the crypt of meat I am. Mary Carr, thank you. Revelations in the Key of K. Well, how about this? I love this idea and program I came across. This is from poetryfoundation.org, and essay on children's poetry, lunchbox poems, some poetic treats to snack on throughout the school year. It says poetry can be a great way to connect with children. Why not, as Ken Nesbitt suggests, slip some verses into your children's lunchboxes to share a giggle or remind them that you're thinking of them to get you started. We've paired a few poems with momentous days of the school year. Well, I think all parents should follow suit with this. I think that'd be wonderful. And they go through all different kinds of types of days and children's poems for the kids. And then there's, I'm pairing this with something from The Pause, which is On Being puts out. And this is starts off with Ruby, a 12-year-old in Vermont, practicing her cursive by writing out the beginning of David White's poem, Everything is Waiting for You. That's the kind of space poetry is provided for 4th and 5th grade students at the Juniper School in Durango, Colorado this month. Every day as her students trickle into the classroom after recess, teacher Lindsay Wilwall asks them to find a spot on the floor or at a desk and invites them to, quote, be in their mindful bodies. Once everyone's situated, she plays an audio clip that guides them to listen mindfully to a poem from the On Being archive. One week it was Elizabeth Alexander reciting her poem Ars Poetica 100. I believe another. It was Naomi Shihab Nye reading Kindness. Her students hear the same poem every day for a week with different daily prompts to help them find or experience something new, like where they might feel the poem in their body when they hear it. Her class is one of dozens participating in mindful poetry moments, a collaboration between the On Being Project and City Silence, the creator of mindful music moments during National Poetry Month. Isn't that wonderful? And the founder of that, City Silence, said the experience of a shared moment of music or poetry can help deepen our connection to one another. It makes us all feel for a moment that we do live in the same universe and we breathe the same air and we can be moved by beauty. Yes, yes. Very nice. There were two books I wanted to mention. They're more image books, but they're very, they seem very potent to me as I looked through what I could look through. One of them is How Children Learn, Portraits of Classrooms Around the World. Classroom Portraits is the title of the book. It's part Where Children Sleep, part Bureaucratics, and part What I Eat Around the World in 80 Diets by the Julian Germain. He travels to capture the inner lives of schools around the world, from England to Nigeria to Qatar, in large-scale photographs of school children in class. He's got 450 portraits of them from 20 countries in that book, Classroom Portraits. Really beautiful. The other is about Where Children Play, photographs of playgrounds around the world, and it's called Playground. It's a global ethnography of where children play, presenting 59 photographs of playgrounds around the globe. And it opens, Maria Popova says, children, with a quote, MoMA curator Juliet Kinchin, children help us to mediate between the ideal and the real. And Popova says, in this beautiful design history of childhood, nowhere is this meditation more dynamic and vibrantly alive than in playgrounds, those singular spaces dedicated to the deliberate cross-pollination of physical reality and the imagination, which endure as a symbolic counterpoint to work and an idyllic antidote to the tyranny of work-life balance by which the adult world operates. And James Mollison is the photographer who made the book Playground. So you might like to search that out. Well, for me, obviously, a recess and at root is, as you may have gathered, connected to freedom, and that all the days of our lives, and these days more than ever, I would say when we're being overly constrained and compromised, it's all the more vital to enjoy and uphold. This was on an Independence Day in 2019. How does freedom ring for you through these days of your life, especially on a day like this, so spangled with symbols, when you look close in, when you size up your inner sense of independence? Is it feeling free to choose your own way, unbound by others' beliefs, judgments, expectations, to live out loud in the here and now, right here, right now, neither corralled by the past nor pulled out to the future, to come from the heart of who you really are and love like no tomorrow, to see the world and all its possibilities, be seen and embraced as a person of all possibility, to explore the beauty of your humanity, the richness, rareness of your individuality, to bow to no one but nature, Mother Earth, in absolute wonder, and everything so stirringly wild, so truly at liberty within her folds, the plants and animals, oceans and mountains, the great sun, moon, and wheeling stars that transcend men's laws, wars, and willful borders, to preserve every inch of your sovereignty, your sacrosanct self, to defend the kingdom of your body and mind, soul and spirit, tooth and nail, from all encroachers, limiters, takers, and swayers, to imagine, to dream, to dare, to leap. Where does freedom live in you, my friend? How does freedom ring for you? T.J. Jarrett, Fort Comfort. After Madame Degas teaches art and science at Durfee Intermediate School, Detroit, 1942. The nun stood by the chalkboard and wrote the word America, underlined it twice and asked, "What do you see here?" Elizabeth shot up her hand and said, "It is home. My grandmother came here so that we could live." The nun asked the rest of the class, "Who else came?" And the children shouted their countries of origin. Except me. I was the only black girl in the room, and I stared off toward the sea, as I often did during history class, already imagining myself far away from this place. The nun said, "Who else?" And the children were quiet. And the nun said, "Some came in chains." They all looked at me, and I turned my eyes back toward Fort Comfort and imagined a ship docking there and the cargo descending to the pier. Rachel, a serious girl with brown eyes which always appeared to be at the verge of overflowing, asked, "What happened to the men before us?" The nun said, "We killed them," her voice wavering. She cleared her throat. "We killed them." And she looked each of us in the eye. I turned my eyes to the sea again, and I could just make out the figure of a woman waving to get my attention, as if she knew me, as if my staring back across the time, across the water, meant her survival, meant something. And the nun went on and on about how nothing could divide us, and I wondered how long 400 years is, how many bodies, how suffering was multiplied among them, what is forever. Well, thank you for that, T.J. Jarrett. Jim Rogers, he said, "Beware of all politicians everywhere. They excelled at recess when they were in school, but have excelled at little since." Good one. Yes, I think that might be true when I look around, at least some of what I see going on or not going on. Well, now coming into the last sharings and musings for this time together, for this week, Howard Nemeroff, to David about his education. The world is full of mostly invisible things, and there's no way but putting the mind's eye or its nose in a book to find them out. Things like the square root of Everest, or how many times Byron goes into Texas, or whether the law of the excluded middle applies west of the Rockies. For these and the like reasons, you have to go to school and study books and listen to what you are told, and sometimes try to remember. Though I don't know what you will do with the mean annual rainfall on Plato's Republic, or the calorie content of the diet of worms, such things are said to be good for you, and you will have to learn them in order to become one of the grown-ups who sees invisible things neither steadily nor whole, but keeps gravely the grand confusion of the world under his hat, which is where it belongs, and teaches small children to do this in their turn. Thank you, Howard Nemeroff. April Halprin Wayland, budding scholars. Welcome, flowers. Write your name on a name tag. Find a seat. Raise your leaf if you've taken a class here before. Let's go around the room. Call out your colors. I see someone's petal has fallen. Please pick it up and put it on your desk where it belongs. Sprinklers at recess. Fertilizer for lunch, and you may snack on the sun throughout the day. Excuse me, what's that in your mouth? A bee? Did you bring enough for everyone? That's lovely. Budding scholars. Thank you, April Halprin Whalen. That's from her collection, Sharing the Seasons, a book of poems. Like that. Alfred Lamotte, Lamotte, election. I voted. I voted for the rainbow. I voted for the cry of a loon. I voted for my grandfather's bones that feed beetles now. I voted for a singing brook that sparkles under a North Dakota bean field. I voted for salty air through which the whimbrel flies south along the shores of 2 continents. I voted for melting snow that returns to the wellspring of darkness, where the sky is born from the earth. I voted for demonic mushrooms in the loam and the old democracy of worms. I voted for the wordless treaty that cannot be broken by white men or brown because it is made of star semen, thistle sap, hieroglyphs of the weevil and prairie oak. I voted for the local, the small, the brim that does not spill over, the abolition of waste, the luxury of enough. I voted for the commonwealth of the ancient forest, a larva for every beak, a wing-tinted flower for every moth's disguise, a well-fed mammal's corpse for every colony of maggots. I voted for open borders between death and birth. I voted on the ballot of a fallen leaf of sycamore that cannot be erased, for it becomes the dust and rain, and then a tree again. I voted for more fallow time to cultivate wild flowers, more recess in schools to cultivate play, more leisure, tax-free, more space between days. I voted to increase the profit of evening silence and the price of a thrush song. I voted for 10 million stars in your next inhalation. Beautiful. Thank you, Alfred K. Lamott. Well, almost at our end time. A thought from the universe, next to last. It's not difficult. It's easy. Everything is easy. Time and space aren't supposed to be the Harvard of the cosmos. They're more like kindergarten at recess. The life you long for already exists. You're supernatural. I'm your partner. Together we'll get there, and you can have it all. See this, the universe. And last, for now, until we're together again here through the airwaves, defying the law. To live outside the law of gravity. Law you swallowed whole, not the Newtonian one that appled into Sir Isaac's head, the cultural one that weighs down the boughs of fellow men, of otherwise fine women, friends, siblings, unsprung offspring, that pins them hard and fast to time and space like butterflies encased unnaturally under glass. To reverse or obverse your expected play of being, that insistent pull to adhere, conform, congru. Exiting stage left or right the usual, now rather suspect, rules of social physics. Once you discover there's nothing at all to hold you down or back or in, but theories too unleavened, unlevitated to bother with, be bound by, when at last you see, you feel, you know you can float free and clear, you can play, you can fly. Thank you again, friends, for leaning in, thinking, and feeling in, for sharing this open-ended recess. My appreciation, too, for those of you who share this and other show links with your friends or post them out to your social media. Word of mouth is our best friend. I do invite your comments from listening to hear what speaks to you. I also invite your contributions to help support these weekly programs that I create with great care and creative spark to engage and illuminate you. Is there a theme you'd like a future broadcast on? If so, send me an email with your suggestion, colin@thepoetisphere.com. And what about your experience of this show on recess? What came up for you or came forth from you while you were listening or afterward? And maybe you're going to have some conversations about it with somebody else. And if you are, by the way, making a contribution, thank you very much. You can do so by Venmo to Fivefold, Fivefold, @pipeline.com, or by PayPal to the same email. Or you can mail a check to me to P.O. Box 1032, Westerly, Rhode Island, 02891, or donate through my site, thepoetorialist.com, at the Donate tab. For those newly here, yes, patrons can sometimes privately host or sponsor me as a working poet in residence to create a new flight of poetic art and dedicate it to a patron or sponsor, and that may be you, and if so, email me to explore. Meanwhile, you can hear all the broadcasts online on YouTube on the Floating Poetry playlist. You can also explore as a visitor or subscriber, the Poetisphere, an oasis of regenesis for seekers of greater aliveness and possibility, an oasis to serve the wider world that I'm guiding, thepoetisphere.com, where all kinds of vitalizing, uplifting, and encouraging is to be had. Meanwhile, I hope you'll lean in here soon again. Until then, dear listeners, Let's look at all the ways we can make recess as both an idea and an activity, something as a grown man or woman that no one else chooses for you but yourself. Something that you can take many times a day and eve, and also as a counterbalance to all you're doing, and is liberating for your whole being, rather than being in any way confined or told to conform to some social norm. Let there be enough playtime on a playground of your making, and wholehearted enjoying. Like loving, it's no small part of how we're made. Goodbye for now, and good spirits.